Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another Title Tuesday. It's Brian and Eric coming at you again today, and we're going to make it really simple. There's one thing that we want to talk about this week on, hey, here's what you need on a purchase agreement, and it's pretty important. One of the most important things is just the address. So having the address on there is something that you definitely need to have on a purchase agreement, and the correct address is at that. So I know a lot of times we're given an address that doesn't include like an east or west. That can make a big difference, or north, south, or whatever. Those types of things. Making sure, actually, there's a instance too where we thought we were buying a property on like 34th Street, but really it was 34th Place. So there's a lot of those different things that can make a huge difference in kind of what you're buying, what you're getting under contract, and what you think you might be getting under contract as well. But as far as having the correct address on there and making sure that the title search works for that address is huge, because Eric and I were just kind of talking before this, and it doesn't just because you can see where somebody mows, or somebody's like shoveling their lot, or the snow away. Some of those things don't actually maybe are the actual lines on the property. So making sure that you have the correct address on there, number one, and then allowing the title company to kind of do their thing, do their searches, and figure out, hey, this is actually what's going on. Eric, I'm sure you have a ton of stories about things that people thought they were selling a certain property, but it didn't include this or didn't include that. But just knowing that having that correct address, and how important that title search really is for that particular address. How important is that for a wholesaler to understand that process and what's on the purchase agreement?
Extremely important. We've talked in these episodes about names, and we've talked about dates and all that stuff, and all of that's really important. But this obviously, this takes it all, because if we don't get the right property address, and let's say that it by accident, which this happens, just like you said, 34th Street, 34th Place, there may be the same house number on both of those, but because it's just street versus place, we can completely search the wrong property. And then we get to a point where the seller realizes, like, well, what I've got is actually on, place and not street. All that time has been wasted, and we could be approaching, the closing date, and everything's going to be in limbo now. So it's extremely important that you get the address right. And part of the reason you're going through a title company, the important part of it is to make sure that that address is going to be able to be insured. We actually don't insure actual addresses. We insure parcel numbers and legal addresses, or legal descriptions. But if we get the wrong address up front, it's going to throw everything off. So always make sure you're getting the right address. Best way to do that is to just verify it using, an online resource. You can go to the county website. You can simply go to Google Maps. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but there is a lot of reliability on Google Maps, and being able to trust what they've put out there. I mean, even we sometimes will go to them just to make sure that the directional thing is correct. You can also go to USPS.com. They have an awesome tool for making sure you get the address right. I will tell you that USPS, Google Maps, and the tax bill do not always match. And the most important thing is the tax bill, because that is how the county records that address. So super, super important. I mean, everything like you mentioned, there could be a directional issue. Is it west, south, east? Is it place, street, lane, way, whatever it is? Just make sure you're getting it right, because it's going to save a lot of time and trouble for you if it is wrong, and we've wasted time and have to come back to you and research an entire property. So
yeah. And then obviously another huge thing is if it is included, if there's an extra lot included, or an extra 2 lots, or whatever it is, make sure those addresses are actually on the purchase agreement as well. I've seen, I've been through instances where wholesalers, they're selling a property and they're like, oh, I thought that extra lot came with it. No, it doesn't. It wasn't on, the contract and stuff. So making sure that those lots are listed, anything in there of what's going on and what is sold with that property and that parcel is very important.
And to that point, yeah, we have a lot of instances where, hey, I thought I was getting and I'm not getting, and that doesn't get, determined sometimes until after closing. People will, a week, 2 weeks later, they will think they have bought, what becomes what is actually the neighboring property with a shed on it, but they thought that was theirs. So it's important that in the purchase agreement, if the seller doesn't come out right and say, like, well, this is actually split, maybe they don't remember, maybe it's an heir that has no idea that you're working with, that, somebody before them split the parcels or did something to that lot, make sure that in your purchase agreement, you're stating I'm buying this property address and it comes with, this, this, and this, so that we know to look for that as a title company, or tell us, like, I don't know if this has a different address, if it's the same address, but I'm positive that I believe this should have that shed, or this should have that garage or that barn on the property. We'll then be able to tell you if it does or it doesn't. It's much easier to get that stuff up front figured out than it is after closing, because it's very difficult after closing to get a piece of property deeded to you through that closing. I mean, it's impossible. So you would have to go through another entire purchase if it was a different lot that contained those pieces.
So awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Yes. So very important. Make sure you have the address on your purchase agreement and the correct address at that. So thank you very much, Eric. And we will see you guys next week with just more info on what to make sure is correct on your purchase agreements and what you should have on those purchase agreements as well. Thanks a lot.